Well, folks, how are we doing? Welcome along to the latest LWB Club Champ Pod. This is like an episode of Art Attack years ago. If anyone looked at it, it's one I prepared earlier. So we're not actually live as this goes out. It was prepared earlier. But we do have a lot to go through and a lot of exciting fixtures to look forward to next weekend across junior, intermediate and senior. So plenty to chew into. We are, of course, in association with Recovery Hub in Carlow, Milano's Takeaway, Bagenalstown, Seamus, Byrne Electrical, Carpenter's Bar, Lounge and Restaurant, Whelan Ltd, the Babba's Barbershop, Fine Framers, J&J Services, Scats, Bouncing Castles, and Precision Media Productions. And we thank them for their kind support throughout the championship. Brian O'Donoghue and Stephen Barnbrick join me once more. Lads, really enjoying the last few weeks, and we have a few exciting ones to look forward to now. Across the weekend, I suppose, for me, there's only one place to start, and it's not the place that Brian O'Donoghue wants to start, and that's Barnester Rangers versus Rathvilly. Quite a surprise. Brian, I'll start with you. What did you make of it, I suppose? And a lot of people will be asking what's going on in Rathvilly with two performances that have not yielded, I suppose, anywhere near the results that they're capable of.
Yeah, very disappointed because we put in the lads had put in 2 very good weeks training by all accounts, and just couldn't click on the day. I would have said Rathvilly had enough chances to win that game, but we are leaking goals. 9 goals in 3 games, and I was chatting to someone last night who said, after conceding 2 in the first half and with Feathers in full forward, why not drop somebody back in front? But it was just such a like, you can't take anything away from Rangers. They are very, very effective, and truth be known, if they had a bit more practice in front of goal, they could have been out of sight much earlier on. But I remember just coming to half time, one of the lads texted, he couldn't get to the game, and he said, "How are things going?" And I said, "Look, it's 2-1 to 4 points." But I said, we're kicking wide, dropping ball short. And not to sound cocky or arrogant, but my attitude was not overly worried. Like, there's scores in this game, and we just couldn't make it stick. From all over the field, like, it just didn't seem to kick. And then factor in dirty wet day as well. Maybe that's a bit of an excuse, but we've a lot of work to do in a week if we want to be able to face up to Rogue. Yeah, it's the fixture that everyone, well, maybe not really don't want at the moment, but definitely all the neutrals want. I'd say Rogue won't mind it either after what happened last year. But Steve, before we show some footage of that game from yesterday, you have some facts and figures, which I know you shared with myself and Joe. You want to go down through the scorers for Rangers in particular, and I think there was a good spread there in the end, wasn't there?
Yeah, like Donald Murphy scored 1-2. Like Chris Nolan scored 2-1. He got a goal chalked off there. Like as Brian said before half time, cool incidents happened there. There was 2 black cards, one each side, and Chris Nolan caught a great ball from, I don't know, kicked it in, but he turned and shot in the one goal. And it was given as a free out, and just coming out to Billy Fanning was refereeing it, and he went in and, on the advice of his umpire, overruled it. So it was a cracker of a finish. Top corner. Now Chris got blocked down. I'd say his possessions, he wasn't afraid to shoot, never afraid to shoot. He scored 2-1, I think, and he did the first goal probably, Robbie just...
We'll show them now in a sec.
Came a little and just, we lost the fly of it. And, there's plenty of time to recover from that still, but like Donald Murphy, we all know about the minor final he played in a couple of years ago. 10 points in play, where we got from frees that night. He started. He didn't start the last day. Lachlan came on, got a point the last day. He came on, scored. He started yesterday, scored, I think, 1-1 or 1-2. Like all over the field. They got the Burns into the game. The Burns were quite against Lachlan and still won. The Burns weren't quite yesterday. Like Dermot now got 1 point from play before half time. They got Eddie into the game, and Eddie in the football and hurling is a catalyst, I think, for any team he's on. After 5 minutes what way this is going. And he was nearly in for another goal. Nearly another goal in the first half. There was a couple of passes didn't get the last man, but like the 2 outstanding players I thought over the weekend were Kevin McDonald and Fiach Fitzpatrick to me. Just they carried the fight to Rathvilly for the whole game, and they looked so controlled on the ball. Kevin went back full back on Brendan Murphy in the last 10 minutes, but the ball didn't go in for about, I'd say there was 10 minutes left. Brendan went full forward, but the ball didn't go in for at least 6 of them, and there was about 5 minutes added on. The goal came from a punch, ball was dropped in, and Brian Smith flicked it to the net. But the thing with Rathvilly was the Conor Doyle went off, probably carrying a knock, maybe 12 an hour to go. He wasn't in the game. The goals, as Brian says, there could have been 6 goals. They could have conceded 6. Now that's, it's not a Rathvilly thing you'd be expecting because.
And do you know something else? In fairness to Rangers, they conceded very few frees. Like you could chalk down Brian Murphy for 2, 3, 4 frees any game.
One yesterday.
We conceded that Rangers did not. Now you might say Rathvilly could make the ball stick in there, and Rangers defended well. But those simple scores that the well-experienced football teams like the Palatines, the Tinrylands, that tap over those balls, they just weren't.
That's
balls weren't being made.
Brendan Murphy went for a goal with a free in probably in injury time, and it was deflected over the bar because I had him down for a point, and I couldn't remember him kicking a point. It was only actually when I looked at and I was down from a free. It's just what so after I thought of it, but Rangers played to their strengths, and like Shay Hay said to me coming out with a couple of weeks training, look what we're able to do. Like it was kind of don't forget that. Like it's simple when things were done effectively, and they played to their strengths. John Nolan came on. John Nolan kicked a cracker of a point in the 52nd minute. We were right behind it, and it was into the breeze. And the minute left his ball was going over the bar. They were able to keep Rathvilly at arm's length. After half time, it was 2 to 4 points when it could have been. If Chris's goal had stood in the first half, it could have been 7 points of a lead at half time. But they came out after half time, and the two goals, or the goal after half time from Chris. Straight ball in from Byrne into Eddie. Eddie caught it, was in behind the defence. Robbie came up, made a good save. Ball broke out to Chris, bang, back at the net. So they're mixing it up a bit as well. They're carrying ball, and yes, they were a bit more direct at times as well.
Yeah, we'll go through it. So this is for shooters, Brian. I know you have a point to make there now, but I might just go through the video part first there. It's not too often Robbie gets caught like this. He just got caught under the flight over, I think. Chris is clearly going for a point here. Just gets caught in 2 minds a little bit, and it's gone in over the head. And look, that happens. It doesn't happen to Robbie that often. But
can you start that again? If you look at the when Chris comes out here, right now, I think there, right. I think any other football team, I think that's a hand pass there, right. And this is the thing about Rangers; they do kind of unconventional. They've great confidence and they've great. They don't fear. I think in most circumstances, who is it? Is it Federer?
Byrne, yeah. You probably should go to him, but right, you'd be expecting it to go to him.
Because Chris got blocked down about 3 times in the game. It says well, like if you looked at his shots, he scored 2-1, probably hit a couple of wides, and it's he blocked down 3 or 4 times as well. So
now the other thing I would say here is, I think it's Conor Doyle. I have to be honest, he doesn't really do Robbie much favours because I don't know who this Rangers man is here because I can't just zoom in far enough, but you probably should be trying to shepherd him out a little bit. Now, maybe you'd argue Robbie should still probably deal with this, right? But didn't really do any favours. I'm sure you'd be giving him an earful.
I'd say he's expecting Robbie to maybe have caught it and to be ready for the pass. But when the flight of it, I don't know what the hell happened there.
Yeah.
One.
Next goal. Because body's back. You know what I mean?
Back. It just shouldn't happen, yeah.
It sounds like we're being harsh on Rathvilly, but I think anyone out there will understand Rathvilly included that. That's a bad goal concede.
Can you wind it back? Where's the pass come from?
I don't think it shows it actually in the clip. Does it? Oh, it does, yeah.
Barbershop fist, I think.
Darren Byrne is wearing 8, isn't he? Yeah, so I think it's Darren Byrne who fits in. So, yeah, it's still a good finish. Take nothing away. It's still a good finish. But it's just with the bodies around, you'd be pretty disappointed conceding that. But credit to Rangers, they took the chance when it was there. Next clip up into the second half. This is a goal that you're talking about, Stevie. Chris latching onto it. Some tape by Federers initially. Good save by Robbie as well. But as all good forwards do, he's sniffing around, and he's there to capitalise. Plain and simple.
I always thought Federer was a better footballer than a hurler anyway.
There's a lot of lads say it. You know what I mean? He's serious danger, man. Always has been. Former county footballer as well, of course, 21. I think he trained with Tommy and Turlough for a little while too. Fair play to Brian Smith for getting something onto that, because that was the hospital pass was St. Luke's written all over it, I think. And he did very well. Like, there's, 3 or 4 Rangers men in around that? And he got something onto it. So, like, at the end of the day, while we're, it seems like maybe we're a bit heavy on Rathvilly. There was only, 4 points in it in the end, I think.
Yeah, but there was
no consolation, though.
There was a good 10 minutes where they were 7-8 points up, like, But just, I don't know what it is with our lads. You could see like the effort seemed to be there, and the runs were being made, and it was just that last bit of conviction, the little bit of je ne sais quoi just wasn't there. And there was still, like, we kicked enough wides and had enough balls dropped short that there was chances created there. It was a 3-7 to 1-9, so 10 scores each. Do you know what kind of way? Like it.
Same as the Loughlin game. Rangers got the very same scores. They got 1 more goal. Yes, they got 2 more than Rathvilly. Very same. 10 scores each, 11 scores each.
Let's go on to it then, lads. Let's go on to it, right? Because we have the footage of that as well. And again, thanks to the Carlow JTV, and we'll give a shout out to Precision Media Productions once more too. This is a game that had all the hallmarks of dead rubber, which it was, but it did produce some entertainment moments. And let's go through some of those. Some good finishing from Loughlin, it has to be said. Tiger Roach coming onto a ball and getting himself a goal off the left as well, which is not something that we would see that often. And again, Pal, with bodies back, probably won't be too happy about conceding the like of this, but like that run off the shoulder at the right time, lads, is what it's all about. We're preaching that the whole time. Good opportunism here. That's Mikey, you think, Stevie, is it?
Yeah.
Like reading it in behind, goes around the keeper, and nice little finish. Has to be said. This is another one. Well that's a seriously good pass, lads. I'll have to wind that back. Like, I know he probably didn't mean to drill it along the ground in terms of sending it in. We're back to the second goal again now. Just we'll wait a moment for it to load up. But he spots him inside, and he takes out about, I don't know, it's probably about 4 or 5 Pal defenders maybe he's taken out with this particular pass. And it's a great run as well, but it's also great vision. That's super, like.
That's great.
And a good finish again, Aaron Almond, that time. So I'll pause with that before we go any further and ask your thoughts on those 3, because I know, Brian, you're going to jump in there.
3 good goals. I was just wondering, particularly with Pal and Rathvilly, because everyone they're in quarterfinals regardless, and maybe this is just a bullshit excuse, but is there an element of no pressure, no real pressure there to really get lads' backs up or anything? So there's an element of complacency or an element of relaxation as opposed to having to, like, in fairness, one of the things I'm impressed by O'Loughlin were, say now compared to Brandon, but O'Loughlin, they fought, like, there was every inch of grass was covered, and every, like, there wasn't, I wouldn't say a Pal man went off the field without a bruise, because they were just determined to put in a performance, and it was like fair play to them, because they're facing relegation or whatever, or relegation battle. Now I'm sure they'll stay up, but I just wonder, is there an element of no pressure, and is that what's affecting the Palatines and Rathvillies of this world?
Yeah, you wouldn't know. I suppose this is what they do good. Kieran Moore coming off the shoulder, getting the late one there off Teddy Bambrick as well, and this is a very good move.
Great goal.
Yeah, that's a typical Pal goal from the last couple of years, where Kenny is usually doing 1-2s like that. Like, Conor Crowley started with 8. He played a bit of the game out there, but like, we're missing Jason Kane. He didn't feature at all. O'Loughlin, like, in fairness, they were trained their damnedest, and they got a good spread of scores again. Like, Niall Roach chalked a point again. Aaron got a goal again. They're going forward at pace, and if the ball is given to the right man, like, it's easier in the eye, and it's also probably more beneficial to getting the scores as well. And the 3 goals were finished well, as in they were finished by right foot players on their left foot. They were Tyke had a bit of room. Mikey and Aaron probably hadn't as much. But like, they were, I take some bit of what Brian is saying about the games being, your eye is slightly taken off it. But the thing about it, and you've said it already, Brian, is you've only a week to get that right in Rathvilly's eyes. Look, Éire Óg, they'll be coming on to it later. They were better this weekend. They have a few lads back, but they still have a lot to work on. One thing I did know sort of the weekend is the free taking. Like you were saying, Leinster Rangers, I give Brian Murphy 1 free. Brendan got 1 from a free. Like, Shane O'Neill I'd say he scored every free he got. he scored 707. And Bagenalstown missed a couple. Tinryland, I think, were fairly good on what frees they got. You have someone popping up at 7 or 8 points from frees in a match in a quarter final or semi final. Now you're signing your death warrant for. You know, you're going to be another 1-5 along with that as you're up to 112. That's going to win a lot of these games. So the Shane Neal was flawless the other night. I think he got one from play as well. And you know, these are things that the teams like the Bagenalstown will have to work on for next week, because against Leinster Rangers, if they give away as little frees as they did yesterday, they'll have to be chalking every one of them over the bar.
Couple of things I'd like to point out here, lads. I'm going to finish up on the footage from this then. But it epitomises a couple of things from a coaching point of view. So the first thing, and it's something that doesn't get said half enough, the player that's just given off the ball is the most dangerous man. So look what happens here. You think the danger's over. Next thing, it's back in his hands again. Second thing to point out, it's your typical 3-man weave. And the third thing to point out, you always finish out the run. If you finish out the initial run that you've made, even if you haven't got the ball first, you could end up with it on the 6-yard box as Pal did there, and it's in the back of the net. So just something to be mindful of, and it's very well done. Killian Roach is someone I worked with this year out in Flesh, and he's heavily involved with Palatine, and I'm sure that has him written all over it there, 100% all day long. He's doing great work. He's only about 23 or 24, I think, and you know, he's destined to be a great manager already, in fairness to him. Okay, so that's Pal and O'Loughlin. They finished 3-8 to 114. Palatine with the 114, and as we know already, Pal are straight into the semi-finals, and O'Loughlin are in a relegation playoff with Ballinabrana, which is going to be quite tasty indeed, it must be said. We'll probably move on to Ballinabrana and Aero just on that topic then, before we go back to Bagenalstown and Tinryland. So I'll bring up the footage here from this one. And this was a little bit of a massacre, lads. In fairness, very good finish. That's Hulton, I think, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there's no hope of saving that, but there is still plenty of bodies back for.
Hulton got no shot off, I don't think, against Tinryland the last day. And he scored 2-7 the other night. He's a player. If he's in the game from the start, I think his percentage of shooting is unreal. Same at inter-county level. If he gets on the game early on, you have a serious handful to be marking him. I know you can say Ballinabrana weren't going well. Like, he scored 2-7, 2-5 from play, I think.
This is another 3-man weave thing all over, lads. So Gannon coming down through the middle, spots Chris Blake inside, but watch Niall Quinlan in the back post. Again, it's just typical 3-man weave and finishing out the run. And in fairness, just a word on Niall Quinlan, very much proving a point, because I know he would have been disappointed not to be playing, you know, the last day or whatever. And, you know, you could argue that's an easy finish, but he still finishes out the run. He puts himself in the position to be there, like all good forwards, no different to Chris Nolan in, you know, in the last passage of footage that we saw earlier in the programme. We're into the second half. And this is Jordan Morrissey tearing through. Like, Hulton is so mad to finish a goal. Genie Mac. When he gets in like that, like, do you know what I mean? Like, he does everything right here. Knows where the gap is, keeps it low. You know, 2 of his goals low in the corner, and no chance of saving either of them. Like,
it helps as well when you've a lad like Jordan Morrissey who can carry a ball from one end of the field to the other, like, you know, and
that's a great finish as well.
That goal, yeah, exactly. Like, that goal there, like, you're getting beat 15 or 20 points, whatever. As a total carbon copy of the goal Sam Mullins got against Ballinkillen, the John Murphy quick free or James Doyle to John Murphy, or to John Doyle, sorry, from the opposite end of the field where Lunny was, and Lunny nailed it. That was a cracking finish. Like, to be thinking, even, you know, when your back's to the wall, like, you know, it was great way of thinking, and low and hard, and, you know, it was a probably, I'd say, along with Darren Nolan's goal in the Bagenalstown game, probably the 2 goals of the weekend finishes wise.
I felt for Ballinabrana, like, to be honest with you, they were a bit before they came out, and I felt very sorry for the keeper. 7 or 8 kickouts at least I seen where he's looking up, and genuinely it looked like none of his outfield players even wanted the ball. And there's a clip going around there on Twitter of Pep Guardiola screaming at Man City players saying, I don't care if you make a mistake, be willing to make the mistake, but you have to want the ball. And there was just, And no disrespect to Belmar, they have some excellent footballers. Like James Keogh is a quality footballer. He's same age himself now, I think 34. Samson's a big chap, and there's another lad in the middle of the field, Ben
Dorgan, yeah.
Ben Dorgan, like Darren Lunny as well. Like the fine footballers. There's no reason why they need to get bet by 25 points, whatever it was, the other night. And still in all, if they can get their act together for the relegation final or relegation match, it's not impossible that they could beat Auckland. But if their players don't basically want the ball in play, I mean they're playing intermediate football next year.
Yep. Just a word on that. That's not till the weekend after next, I don't think. Am I right in saying that?
Not sure.
It's not next weekend, and I don't know when it is.
It's not the weekend coming. So we'll conclude with the final senior championship game of the weekend from the same group as we just saw, and that was Bagenalstown and Tinryland. So, we said it was sometimes uncommon to see Danny Moore scoring points from range. There's nothing wrong with that from his point of view or Tinryland's point of view, but I suppose if you're looking at it from Bagenalstown's point of view, and I know, Brian, you've touched on this before we went on air, there's something you wanted to highlight. Getting bodies back is all well and good, but you've got to get a hand on here, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, now, okay, maybe you're thinking wing back shooting from that range is going to go wide, but Danny had proved the week before that he was, or 2 weeks ago, that he was able to do that. But yeah, getting men back, great, but the pressure has to be put on the man with the ball, and he definitely hit 2-3 yards there where he was able to get that off, and just too easy.
So he's not tracked, first of all, and yes, the pass does take out a few Bagenalstown defenders, and then it puts Alfie Corker in an awkward spot where, right, if I leave my man, we're in bigger trouble. And if I go here, he just gets caught in no man's land because someone else is probably not tracking a runner as well. Fine point, though, has to be said. And look, he's proven that was no fluke a couple of weeks ago. I suppose he did twice in that game as well. But he's definitely contributing fairly handsomely on the scoreboard for Tinryland this year. So next clip up then. Dermot Walsh coming off the shoulder. And again, it's hard to beat that, isn't it? Like, that's
Tinryland kicked 5 wides, and I can't remember any wide in particular. Bagenalstown kicked 8, I think. But the shooting there around the day, like, the Dublin team was, they were that's where they had done most of their damage. The shots are, 25, 30 metres out. This one again, look, just off the day, one of the Walshes, he scored one with his right and his left, I think, Cormac Walsh. Like, Bagenalstown had the win in the first half, and I was over on the terrace just to point out there I wasn't in the stand.
The clear ball was wrong.
It took 10 minutes for me to actually cop that. Bagenalstown had the strong wind in the first half, and they didn't push on with it. And it was 7-1 at half time. It was only the second half, and they started playing a bit of urgency. They got a couple of scores, at the start second half.
They went man to man second half.
Yeah, they didn't push up in the kickouts a bit. They didn't in the first half, and John Murphy scored after 20 seconds. It's Tinryland are up and running. I think Shane Redmond scored again. They got good spread of scores again, but they're in the semi-final now, so they knew going out just a draw or win on them. Bagenalstown were missing Shane Clark, big loss. Jamie went off. I presumed he was carrying a knock.
He was on one leg, yeah.
Yeah, he looked like he came out fairly gingerly after half time there. And they're playing on Leinster Rangers now, and that's going to be it'll be from the hurling semi-final, having shocked them in the hurling semi-final. Rangers will be looking at the payback if possible. Then Bagenalstown guys are looking at, they're probably going in under, their lads are going to be talking up Mount Leinster a bit more after yesterday, and they'll be talking down Bagenalstown after yesterday as well. So the lads are not.
You're going to go on to these previews. I'm just going to play out this last clip, and then we're on to the previews, and we can do it properly, right? So Keane Doyle spots the run of Darren Nolan inside, or not Darren Nolan, it's Alfie back to Darren Nolan, is it?
It's a great goal.
I can't see it so far out there, but drop kick. Look at this up close now. Something you don't see too often. Fair play to him. Nothing wrong with that, lads. But from a Tinryland point of view, there's a lot wrong with it, because I'm not quite sure what they did at this passage of the game. Maybe they'd changed their structure slightly, but it looks nothing like the Tinryland structure that we're kind of accustomed to seeing. Probably somewhat similar, but what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bodies back. But Tom Hogan is always preaching this, lads, or at least he was on the podcast last year when we had him, that when there is a blanket like that you always keep your head up when you're outside it and see what's going on inside, because sometimes the bodies can kind of, get drawn back out towards the 45. Maybe that's what's happened here. And, the second run hasn't been spotted either. Yeah. So, no doubt Steve O'Mara will be baiting that down their throats. No different to what Tommy and Turlow might have been doing with that Ballerana goal, because they want it like that. So, now Stevie's man to talk about Bagenalstown and Rangers. So, we'll start with that. We'll start with that quarter final, and we'll go back to intermediate and junior, and we'll do kind of a review and a look ahead to those. So, yes, we have a very exciting weekend indeed of fixtures, as you said at the outset. But a double header of quarter final action on Sunday at Netwatch Cullen Park. So 1:30 it is Milano Rangers up against Bagenalstown Gales, and at 3:15 Aerogue versus Rathvilly in a repeat of last year's Senior Football Championship final. So we're going to start with Rangers and Bagenalstown. So my take on this, plain and simple, is probably a little bit to do with what you're saying earlier. Is there much at stake? Does it matter to teams? I would still say you'd rather be going to a quarter final with a victory than a defeat. And Rangers now have got over that unmerciful hammering in the first round. All of a sudden have a bit of momentum with 2 wins behind them. One you would have said was a 50-50 game. The other one you were tipping Rathvilly, I suppose. And they're doing a bit of training now as well. Would all the hallmarks be saying here that this looks like a Milano Rangers victory, or is there anything to the contrary to suggest that Bagenalstown can do this? And I'll put out the 2 variables, and that's the Clark brothers and their availability and fitness, because without those, Bagenalstown are a different side. Brian?
I would go as far as to say, had Bagenalstown had the 2 Clarks yesterday, it would have given them that extra 5-10%, and you could have looked at a different game. And if you wanted to, wouldn't call it controversial, but a bit of a prediction, if there's some really, really good footballers in Bagenalstown, and like Drew de Rogue, unlucky to lose to Ireland, and obviously beat Ballinabranna. Bagenalstown will be thereabouts every year for the next 5 years if they can keep that panel together and build and bring some young lads through. They're flying it. Rangers are just so fucking effective and a little bit unorthodox. I couldn't honestly call a draw, extra time, penalties. Go with that maybe.
Steve-O?
I was thinking along the same lines before he said a draw there myself. I'm looking, like a lot of Bagenalstown boys, that's the first game I've seen. I didn't see the first 2 games. So I'm going to what I seen yesterday. Keendale, Robbie Kane, they need bigger performances than yesterday. They know that themselves, like, and they'll have to stop unless Rangers getting goals. Like the goals, 3 goals in each game. Like unless you're down to 1 goal, maybe you're able to hit 112, 113. Don't know that. Like 112 or 13 will probably win any game now, would say, from here on in. Be interesting to see. Sorry, Ryan, go on.
No, sorry, I shouldn't. I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry.
Will Eddie Byrne be? If Eddie Byrne is let be effective from the start, Fiacre Fitzpatrick, as I said, and Kevin McDonald taught the 2 of them yesterday. If they're not stopped at source up the field, 2 Clarks make a difference. Look, Jamie Clark, might as well not been playing yesterday. He was carrying a knock. I'd say visibly, he was just the game went by him and they took him off. Short after half time. The 2 of them are back. You're going to have cracking middle third there. The likes of Dermot Byrne, them boys bouncing off one another. It's going to be. If Mount Leinster take their chances, I'd give them a slight nod. But I'd also go with they'll probably need a goal, or they'll definitely need 1, 2 goals. If Bagenalstown can keep a clean sheet, they could just about squeeze it out. But the forwards have to be a bit more active than yesterday. That would have been understatement, and they said they don't need to be told that. Like Jack McCullough was quiet enough, took 1 shot before half time. That middle third is going to be, it'll be like the hurling. A lot of the same players in the middle third there that were in the hurling, and he said it tongue in cheek, but Rangers will be going out to win the match. They won't be worried about the hurling semi-final that they lost that's gone. But Jesus, it's a tough one to call. It's a tight one to call. I'd say I go Mount Leinster Rangers, but if they get only one goal or no goal, Bagenalstown I think will win it. They just might have enough, maybe 10 points to 1-6 or something like that.
If you're
kind of hedging my bets there now that I'm going for Mount Leinster Rangers, but that if they get more than one goal, I'm going for Mount Leinster Rangers. But
right, right.
If you're over Bagenalstown, would you be tempted to stick Alfie on feathers and tell him to follow him everywhere?
Maybe they'll probably have a few lads capable of doing that as well. Like size wise, Jack McCullough could do it, and then you're maybe sacrificing him going forward a little bit. Yeah, maybe, I don't know, but like I suppose Alfie is such an anchor, isn't he? Like at 6, that it's very hard to take him out of there. But you know, Shane Clark can play at 6 as well. It's not exactly similar to the hurling where you take Alfie out at 6, then you know there can be a bit of an issue at times. Whereas Clark can play there.
There's very few times where you see Rangers working the ball, say through the middle. They can tend to get so far, and if Feathers is in there, it's launched to him. So if you leave Alfie at 6, there's the possibility that he gets bypassed with those balls anyway, and he's trying to turn to help. I don't know.
They've got flexibility though, Bagenalstown, I suppose. You know, I've mentioned Shane Clark can play at 6, Jack McCullough can play at 6, Jack can play at 3 as well, Alfie can play at 3. So yeah, interesting to see. So Stevie's one of the Rangers, I'm one of the Rangers. Brian, I'm going to have to press you.
Bagenalstown.
Okay, there we go. 2-1 Rangers in terms of the verdict count here. Right, next game. Aero Graphilly lads. Woo. Aero back on track, you could say. Would they have liked a sterner test? Probably. Can they do anything about that? No. Do they have a score to settle? Yes. Are Rathvilly a little bit sore after the previous 2 performances? Yes. Do they raise their game against Aero? Yes. Are we in for a cracker? Yes. But who's going to win it?
Rathvilly by 10 points. Impossible to call. Like, there has to be something more in us than what we've seen. Even against the lockdown, we got through it. It wasn't a great performance. And if we can stop conceding goals and start scoring from the other end, state the obvious, Brian Goodman. But I put it this way: if we concede 2 or 3 goals, Rathvilly aren't going to win that game. But like we're due to click. We're due at least one performance this year, and God willing, it'll be this Sunday.
Okay, but you're hopeful rather than expecting, I'd say.
But just based on the evidence, you know, 3 non-performances in a row. No, do you know what? Rathvilly a road game. No, Rathvilly to it.
Okay, maybe.
Look, Aero have a few of the ways back. Mark Fury and Morris are back there. Big help the last day, and it'll be big help the next day they're playing. Darragh Bryan's a big loss. I don't know how long he's out for. All depends on the Rathvilly have to snuff out the Niall Quinlan's, Colm Hultons. If they're given room, you know, there could be oversight, but I think it's going to be tight. It's going to be Rathvilly are going to, like, this is, you know, it's the, I said I was joking during the week's quarter final. I was looking the other way that Bagenalstown to get a result out of the Tynrine game, but I was kind of forgetting that, you know, Leinster Rangers could still be Rathvilly, which they did to produce this match. Like, our other lads back, but wouldn't get carried away. I don't think they will themselves with the result over the weekend. Like, the Rathvilly need to tighten up the goal. Like, the goal stands to reason. Like, 2 or 3 goals, like, and they're all going to win. Any team is going to win with 2 or 3 goals at this stage of the season. If chalk on 6 or 8, 10 points, like, you know. But they'll need, like, Brian Murphy being very quiet. Brendan Murphy, like, yesterday was very quiet as well. He's been quiet enough in the whole championship. You know, he missed the night, got injured against Auckland, and he went off. And, you know, this is die dog, as we say. And, you know, this is like it's a quarter final. I wouldn't say there's too many teams that played in quarter finals in I don't know. I'd have to talk to Leo McGough, but like it's a different scenario too because it's only had in one game. Two of them, regardless of winning going straight through the semi-final. But like even the goals, the way they're conceded, there's no good way to concede a goal. But some of the goals they conceded yesterday and the last day were, there wasn't a glove laid on lad. I expect if Conor Doyle is fit, like he'll be a different lad in the next game. I go for Éire Óg, but Éire Óg still have a lot of, the full backline there, the two Kellys and Shane Buggy, relatively inexperienced still. If someone goes 4, 5, 6 points ahead in this game, are the other team able to pull it back? That's what when your back's to the wall. Then should be a cracker of a game. Like I'd say, like Gannon kicked 2 points and they kicked a couple of wides the first half. As the game went on, he caught 3 or 4 kickouts. That middle third again is going to be minefield, and just there'll be so many personalities in that there. You'll have Morton, Brendan Murphy, Gannon, these lads. Conor Doyle will be coming into it, Josh Moore. I give Éire Óg the nod, but they have bodies, they have a few of the strong names back, but I think Darragh O'Brien's still a fierce loss up in the forward line. If in a game like this where it could be 10 points to 9 win, a goal in this game is going to be crucial. Like Brandon Kelly now, I'd love to see how he'll go on against Rath or Éire Óg. He kicked a cracker of a point there yesterday. Now I don't know how he got the balance to kick it in the game where things weren't going well for him over on nearly on the end line. I'll go with Éire Óg, but it'll be, if there's no goals in this game, you could be looking at extra time. Very handy.
All right, that's 2 Éire Óg and 1 Rathvilly then. Right, intermediate championship. So Fenna had a 2-14 to 1-8 win over Naomh Eoin, and a draw between Kilbride and Grange put Kilbride straight through to the semis. No doubt they were playing some Abbott tunes to celebrate. Quarter-final fixtures then this weekend. There's a double header on Saturday, which I'll just bring up here now. And we are looking at a 6 o'clock start for Grange and Naomh Eoin. Both now it's Cullen Park again, I should add. And at 7:45, you have St. Patrick's of Tullow up against Kildavin Clonegall. So the other thing to point out, lads, is that the teams that have gone straight through to the semis are seeded, just to confirm. I think a few people were a little bit iffy about what the crack was there. So that's what we're looking at. It's the same every week. Impossible to call. Grange, Naomh Eoin. I think Grange just marginally. For no great reason in particular, to be honest with you. But unless you have some more colour to add to it.
Maybe just on the basis that they're the footballers and sole footballers.
Bit more natural footballers is, if I was going to say something, that would probably be the thing that I would use to back it up as well.
But then there's such a limited pick.
Great.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm going with Grange. Brian?
Grange.
Okay, Stevie?
I'll go with Michael because I 10 points to 1-6 again. These are games Michael should be nothing in it. I give Michael a nod, be a point. Naomh Eoin. I keep calling him Michael, but Naomh Eoin, isn't it?
You could be calling him worse.
Yeah.
I said other lads often they call him worse. But anyway, that's the crack with that one. So St. Patrick's and Kildavin Clonegall. Kildavin Clonegall, they're not going to be too pleased with their championship so far, even though they beat the Blues that are there. The Blues are in disarray. It was 2-15 to 5 points that finished up. But like, you hit form at the right time and your season can turn, as we saw several times with this format. St. Patrick's of Tullow. It takes me thinking, like, you know what I mean? These aren't straightforward verdicts, like, by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I knew coming on beforehand here that I was probably going to give Éire Óg the verdict, even though it's going to be a tight game. And I knew I was probably going to give Rangers the verdict, even though it's going to be a tight game. I haven't a clue still what I'm going to do with these intermediate ones. Have you any more to add?
It's impossible to call.
Well, Tullow will be the set up. They'll be happy to go with that now. And I heard Jerry McGill was very good in the goal from the other night against Éire Óg, his former team.
Who would they be? 1-5 to 6 points, I should have pointed out. Yeah.
They can have a cut at him. Kildavin, I've seen him against Kilbride. Like, they have the footballers who can get out. Is Mick Hall still with Tullow? He is. St. Pat's. Yeah, he's the new Carlow minor manager as well. To see that announced there today. I'd give Kildavin the nod on the fact that they might have, just put that Kilbride game to bed. I'd give Kildavin a slight nod.
The only thing I think is, chatting to a couple of Kildavin supporters, there's sort of a feeling that one or two lads are playing out of position, and purely based on that, and Tullow maybe have a bit of momentum going now. I'm going to lean with Tullow this one.
I'm going to go with Tullow as well. I think as well what you have with Jerry McGill, you nearly have another manager playing, which is like, he's such a good organizer. He's a good keeper as well. Obviously, he's played county league, but he's also done a lot of coaching.
Speaking of county league, I think Kildavin need to get more on Niall Hickey. They got him into the game in Kilbride League and got 3 or 4 points, but they hadn't him in the game for the first 40 minutes nearly. And he was very good with the county this year for that I wouldn't have heard a whole lot about. Popped up with vital goals in 2 games there, and these are the games county men have to stick out, and in the intermediate game, he'll have to pull a lot of that team together as well. I think he's only a young lad, but still they have a lot of experience of county players down different positions. Whereas Tullow are kind of a team on the way up, so it's make what you can out of that, but as the quarterfinals, you could draw a blanket over the 4 teams there, and the 4 of them could be in a group together, and they could all beat one another any day. Right,
so that's 2 Tullow and Kildavin Donegal for that one. We'll move back on to junior then. So we have mouth-watering fixtures on Friday night, another double header in Netwatch Cullen Park, 7:15, Loughlin Bridge versus O'Loughlin, and then at 8:45, I'd be fit for the bed again, that game draws in. Palatine and Tinryland. You couldn't ask for better to start off the weekend, could you? Drive it on, boys. Drive it on. 7:15, Loughlin Bridge versus O'Loughlin. I think Loughlin Bridge and Tinryland had all the hallmarks of a very entertaining game. I didn't actually get over to that, but was it 3-8, 2-6 or something like that in the end? I think it finished up in favour of Loughlin Bridge. I fancy them for this. I think they have a bit of momentum behind them, and O'Loughlin didn't score the other day against Ballin. And Steve, I don't like to use this again to hammer you it, right? But if a team is not capable of scoring in a championship, as Tinryland have done as well, not scored, Tinryland and O'Loughlin are both in quarterfinals of the championship. Just take that in for a minute.
No, I was at the match. I was at the second half, the match the other night, and they had plenty of chances in the first half. They should have had they didn't get a score and all that, but they should have had at least 3 or 4 points, if not a goal as well. But it was like you're going back to the Loughlin Pal game the other night, and the Tinryland Ball or Loughlin Bridge game in the junior. They were dead as in, no matter what way the match went, they were going to be still in the championship. Do you go back then to the score average, something like that? Forget the head-to-head if teams are tied level.
We had a proposal for this actually. Sorry, this has prompted something. Ronan Byrne is in touch with us. I think Ronan does a bit of coaching. He was with Castleknock for a while. I think he's across the border in Wicklow anyway, and he played with Carlow Schools hurling going back about 10 or 12 years ago. His proposal was to leave it at 8 teams and to still have 2 groups of 4, but that the winner just make one draw. So the first round, let that be a blank canvas, but then the winners will play the winners in round 2, and losers will play with losers. And then when it comes down to round 3, you should have a situation where there is a lot to play for still. Now, the only thing I would add to that, I would take out the head-to-head, and I would just put the score difference if that was going to be the case. It's not the worst idea I've heard for leaving it at 8 teams. There's probably still quirks in the system, maybe somewhere, I don't know, but probably still a little bit better than what we have at the moment. Not a bad show, I thought. What do you think?
The funny thing is, and I'm open to correction here, if you take away the head-to-head, and if O'Loughlin had beaten Pal, they actually would have ended up with a better score difference than Rathvilly, and Rathvilly being a relegation battle. So you could potentially make a huge impact to it. And based on what I just said, I wouldn't be for it. No.
Right. Yeah, Stevie, what do you think of that one as a shout, or as a suggestion?
I just if that was suggested at the county board level, and take a lot of experience. We're like Laois, you're familiar with double the teams. Is it there's 16 in Laois?
Yeah, now they still maintain there's no group structure in Laois. It should be pointed out. This is a group structure that Ronan is talking about. So it's not really a like for like comparison, but the only similarity is that winners will play winners in round 2. And losers, but
just on the other hand, probably listen to Turl on the radio there. That said, the hurling football probably it'll have to go back mixed next year, because I think if the football is suffering a bit quality wise, if that's looking at that way, that it's if you're looking at the affiliate players, it's not fair on them to wait until middle of September to start the championship, or middle of August, whenever it was. I could see it probably go back next year to hurling football, 2 weeks of each, or whatever what it used to be like. To answer your question, something new, like it's that right that you have an interest in it until the last game, but then no matter what way you go, if you don't win your own game, don't leave it in someone else's hands. You won't want it to go to a mix, surely, as chairperson there, Reid. It doesn't matter. They're still training as much for the football anyway this year, and that's no slight in the football clubs.
Really, yeah, because I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean, and I mean that's like they're preparing for a championship as well, so it had to happen too. And right, okay, it's not ideal, but that's the way it is.
The amount of nights changed during the hurling championship, like as in,
there
was extra nights given to hurling.
Yeah, it was on grand. Okay,
no hassle that way. Like.
No. In fairness, like you're the same group of players. There's most of them, I'd say, playing football at the top grade of their club, and they were still training. Like, it's just a few things there now, all right, but I can feel it from just said like some Rathvillier or Clamore, something that's not the hurling, that they're waiting until September. Now you're looking at Chris Nolan, and Chris goes off and someone comes back and still able to pop up there yesterday, score 2-1, and that was because he was away in America playing hurling. But it's
flip it the other way. Like if people just voted the way, in the interest of fairness, just flip it and put football next year. Don't be waiting to fall. There's plenty of time to play, and it'll keep them in Ireland as well, sure.
And the only downside to that then is whatever team does go out of championship is waiting a long time before they play it. There's no perfect way. Personally, it's just a pity that May, June, July, and August go by before you get to your business end of one of your championships. And like presumably, and I know great man talk about hurling, but I presume like September, October isn't the ideal time for nice hurling either. Like
just when I'm with hurling there, Brian, I just want to mention under 13 hurling semi-finals ran yesterday morning, and hat tip to every young lad who played yesterday morning, because there was 4 semi-finals out in Fenna. I was out in Breeder playing Division 2 at 11:30, and the pitch were grand, but the weather was shocking. I know it could have been pulled probably, but I have to congratulate any player that tugged out in that yesterday, match officials, the whole lot, because it was not conducive with hurling, and just fair play to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Fair play indeed. Another interesting topic. I'm a regular listener to the Laois Today podcast, which we mentioned quite regularly here. I should be getting royalties. But good friends of Steve Miller, a man you'd know as well, Brian, in fairness. But they spoke there last week about, they spoke to John Sugru about the Kerry setup, and they spoke to Kieran McCarthy of the Southern Star about the Cork setup, and how the club championship works, and then how a county championship works. And I couldn't get my head around it before I listened to the podcast either. But basically, if you're a junior intermediate player, you qualify to play for a division in the senior championship. And separate to that, then to run off another championship later on in the year, a divisional one. And the Cork system is slightly different in that they now have the likes of your UCC, your CIT, and your divisions all in one group, so that only one of those teams can actually go into it. I think maybe it's a quarter final, and it keeps the other clubs happy who are first teams there, who say surely this is not right. Because I suppose if you look at, just say Kerry being an example, that's basically a county team, East Kerry at the moment, but in Cork a team like that, or of that equivalent, will only come up against a club that are out on their own in the knockout stages, and only one divisional team will come over. You're talking about more games later on in the championship. Is that something that would be a draw for Carlow coming into maybe November and playing it up as far as Christmas, that lads are playing football the whole year round, or how do you make that, I suppose, attractive? Like in Kerry in particular, it's massive. Even though you don't go on and represent Kerry in Munster or anything like that, they treat that every bit as highly as what they would if they won a championship that sends their club into a provincial campaign. Is that a solution to what Thurlo's talking about?
They done it in 1991 in Carlow. Loughlin Parish was one team. I think Rathvilly could be in together with Clonmore, and I stand corrected. I played in one of the games. I can't remember. We played over it was in Clonmore, and I'm nearly sure I was marking someone from Rathvilly. Anyway, I wouldn't say over there could have anyone playing, but the parish, say Bagenalstown, could have been with Fenn. I'm not sure, but there was definitely Martin Dermody, Lord Emerson. I mentioned Martin Dermody. Martin Dermody actually played in the goal in the final in the hurling. And what age was he then? He was 6 or 7. He died there a couple of weeks ago. What a soldier he was for the cause. And Martin actually played in the goal in that final, and Pat Castle came on and got the winning goal in the last couple of minutes against Mullins. But definitely there was group matches. There was, say, it went on. It must have been before Christmas. It was definitely Paris. Tullow and Grange were together. I'm trying to think back now, but I don't know what the brainchild, whose idea it was, but it did run that year, and Loughlin was the name of the team we had. There was Loughlin Parish, and they won both the hurling and the football. I must look up the National Archives to get a chance just to see.
Yeah, we're looking into
I was looking back at county final programs last week, and there was 2 or 3 teams, and this is back in the 80s and 90s, that came in. Carlow Blues played one year in the championship. It was the Blues in Asca. Slaney was a Slaney Rangers, Slaney Rovers. I know that in 92 or 3 they played
Rangers.
They killed the county final against Mayor Og. That was Kilbride and Kildavin, I think. Was one of the first ones Mayor Og won, the 6 in a row. And there was another team. What was it? I can't think of it off the top of my head. But these were all in the 80s and the late 80s, mid 80s to early 90s. I said 91, 2, 3. There was different teams popped up in, and there were, I don't know how the championship worked then. It was knockout more than answer. There was no group stages. But how do you work it with if the hurling is going on as well? It's
yeah, but it's after. You see, that's what I'm saying. They run it off.
If you're going to do it in the championship format, if you're doing it separate, fair enough. You'll probably have to clash with soccer or rugby you just have to get on with that. So it's an interesting topic to keep lads. The under 20 football is going on this year, I'm presuming, when the championship is over. So that's going to take, I'm not saying, look, an idea, and this is not going to be, it's food for thought for
if you wanted to
developing footballers, all right.
If you want to keep it strictly to the parish element of it, Rathvilly, Kiltegan, and we get Shawnee Furlong and Podger Tool and a few boys, just to be no bother at all.
Yeah.
But then Clonmore, in fairness, would argue that then you've got Clonmore, Kilkenno. So I'm sure it's the same round the county. I'm sure.
Yeah,
that wouldn't happen up here, Brian.
That's your senior. If you're saying senior clubs are going to amalgamate to make divisional teams, but I think it's more catered for intermediate and junior players that they get the opportunity to play senior championship football, and it gives an Isle Carew or whoever's over a county team an opportunity to see these lads play at a higher level, and they get a better judgment on them, and they're exposed to playing at a slightly better level than what their existing one is going into play county. I suppose the development or the learning isn't as deep if you've already played senior club championship, whereas if you've only played junior club championship and you're trying to go in to get to the pace of senior county, that's quite a step. So maybe something we're looking at and listed. But anyway, we'll go back to these predictions, and we'll wrap it up very, very shortly as well. So I'm going with Loughlin Bridge against O'Loughlin. Stephen, you're going with O'Loughlin, obviously. I won't even entertain that one. Brian, who are you going with?
At the risk of not being invited back on, Loughlin Bridge all the way.
Good man, Brian. Oh, that's the stuff. Palatine versus Tin Island. I don't really know much about this Palatine side. I know you've seen them, Stevie, but
I've seen them in O'Loughlin. They're a mix of young lads and snack boxes on it. Gavin Farrell, Paul Reid.
Mixture of young lads and snack box.
Young lads who are eating the snack boxes.
Look, it'll be nothing in it. It's look,
Pal then, is it?
I haven't seen him Ryland. I go Hal, yeah, for no other reason.
I'll go with Ryland. I'm not educated enough on this at all, so I'm just going with Ryland.
I
Right.
go based on the fact that Ryland had a game where they didn't score. I go Pal.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Stevie, cancel that call earlier. Junior C quarterfinals.
It's from Moldova.
Oh, lovely. One of them. Lovely. Who do you know, Moldova? I won't go into that. 6:30 Sunday, Tullow St. Patrick's, I should say, against Palatine, and then 7:15 Munster Rangers versus Loughlin. Both at the training centre in Fenagh. Junior B quarterfinals. I thought I retweeted those. I've just lost sight of those momentarily. I apologise to all in the Junior B Championship. I'm just scrolling back through Carla J's tweets and I'm seeing can I grab it very quickly. I don't know if you know off the top of your head, lads. Apologies to our viewers and listeners on that one. No, I don't have the fixtures to hand. I will go up and go onto the Carla J website. In the meantime, the ladies' football final is down for Sunday evening, I think, Stevie, is it? Or is it Saturday evening?
Sunday evening, 6 o'clock in Dr. Cullen. Then the Kerryton Rail in O'Loughlin, and the intermediate or senior B final is in there Saturday morning. The semi-finals are on tonight. It's Munster Rangers and St. Anne's, Rathvilly and Fenagh.
I want to pause for a sec. Have the Junior B fixtures. They're out in the training centre on Friday night, and 7:30 Rathvilly, Calamity Donegal, 7:45 Ballybran and Fenagh. Continue.
Yeah, the intermediate final in the ladies, I'm not sure of. It could be Air and St. Bridges. I haven't seen a fixture for that, but the two semi-finals of the senior B are on tonight, and I think the final is at 12:30 on Saturday in Dr. Cullen. So it's good to see, like, but you know that means there's too much in there. Friday night, there's definitely 3 Saturday and 3 Sunday, so it's good to see cooperation from everyone
to make it happen to get them into network.
Yeah, there's under 16 ladies football finals in Fenagh tomorrow night. There's some cracking games in that there. Air Ogan O'Loughlin in the Division 1 or A final. So there's 4 finals on over there. So that's Wednesday night. That concludes that. Like, there's some cracking games in that. There's county teams, both Camogie and ladies football. I've been talking to lads that have daughters on these teams, like, and they said like there's some very good players in both codes, and they've been doing well outside the county in blitzes and things like that. So it's good to see that. So hopefully that'll push on to county teams.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The other thing I wanted to say, yes, that's great. That's great progress, and hope next year. Just a pure brain fart now. When it comes to the Camogie games in particular, I know there's around at the weekend. Nair Breed saw St. Mullins. I don't have the results to hand. I don't know if he.
Yeah, there was a cracker of a game with Mount Leinster and Bagenalstown. I think it was 4-12 to 3-14. Bagenalstown win could have put them in the quarter semi-final instead of Ballinkillen.
Rangers won it then.
Rangers won. I think it was 4-12 to 3-14, and Michael beat Ballinkillen. I've seen the score. I can't remember now offhand.
That sounds
so. That's the semi-final.
The reason I say that is because, do you know the way, like, most of the games this year, I think nearly all of them from Carlow Coach who were free in. If it transpired next year that the Senior Hurling Championship was happening around the same time as the Senior Camogie Championship, wouldn't it be a nice incentive to have a Camogie fixture on before a Senior Hurling Championship fixture in Netwatch Cullen Park? Mm-hmm. Like, there's no real issues over arguing over gates if the game is free entry for Camogie anyway, and it might get a few people in earlier, see what the standard is like, before the lads game as well. That lads that wouldn't be typically going to it, maybe. Just as an idea, But yeah, that's the story, lads. We're at the hour mark. We better wrap it up. Any last thoughts before we finish?
No, looking forward to the weekend.
Yep, I think we all are. We'll give a shout out to Recovery Hub in Carlow, Milano's Takeaway Bagenalstown, Seamus Byrne Electrical, Carpenter's Bar Lounge and Restaurant, Whelan Ltd, Scats Bouncing Castles, J&J Services, Fine Framers, Precision Media Productions, and the Babas Barbershop, our sponsors for the championship. Lads, really enjoyed your company. Thanks to all our listeners and our viewers as well. If you want to get in touch with us, we're at the Left Wing Back across Twitter, Facebook, and on Instagram. We'll be back again next Monday. But for now, Brian Donoghue,